Hello.
Howdy.
Hey, this is Lauren.
How's it going?
It's going okay. How are you?
I'm well.
Hey, Lauren. Hey, Jason.
Hey.
Hey. I'll have to say up front, I am gonna have to leave early. My husband's out of town, so I am watching Mara, and I will have to put her to bed, so I won't be able to stay for the whole meeting.
Okay.
What a bogus excuse that is. No, I'm kidding.
And I think that Matt, if he is attending, I think he needs to leave early as well.
I think Matt only planned to come for the neighborhood maps update.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. Hi, can you hear me?
Oh, hey, Matt. How are you?
Pretty good.
Hey, Matt, congrats on the new baby.
Yeah, congrats.
There she is.
Aw.
I won't be holding her the whole meeting. Ashley's going to come down and get her here in a minute.
Baby preview.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm going to go ahead and make you host, so hold on.
Yep, sounds good.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey.
How's everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
You getting enough rest there, Matt?
Yeah. It's broken rest, but 3-hour blocks. It's very much it's amazing.
Oh, good stuff.
Dash, how do you want to handle the meeting? Do you want to run it from start to finish? And
Yeah, I can do that, because am I right that you're only staying for the part about the neighborhood map discussion?
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I can run it start to finish, unless you're dying to take the vote on the minutes and so forth.
No, it's you're more than welcome.
Although I guess Lauren, what time do you have to leave?
Probably around 7:30.
Okay. We don't have a ton on the agenda. I'm just thinking to make sure that we have 4 people to keep.
That's what my thought was as well.
So we've got a quorum. We've got a quorum right now, right?
Yep.
My thought, unless anyone disagrees, would be to get started and get moving so we can get through what we can in case this is it.
Yeah, that works.
Do you know, Eric, is anybody else, is CJ, Melinda, anybody else planning on coming, or did you hear from anybody?
I did not hear from anybody that they would not be able to attend.
Gotcha.
So I just received a text from CJ. She wanted me to re-forward the meeting invite to her.
Okay.
Okay, well, we can wait for a second for her to join. But Eric, if we hit a point, if CJ is the only other one who joins, if we lose quorum, we have to stop, right?
Yep.
Well, CJ's coming on. Do you think we should just kind of start? We can at least kick it off and.
Yeah, I think so. I think we get
Yeah.
started.
That's fine with me. So I'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:34 p.m. and I'll turn it over to Eric to take roll.
Okay. Chair Matthew Crabtree.
Present.
Vice Chair Cash Parker.
Here.
CJ Cullinan is currently absent. If she shows up, I'll note the time on the minutes. Melinda Ellswick, absent. Lauren Cooper.
Here.
Jason O'Brien.
Here.
Hannah Miles. Can't see her tonight. Cheryl Wink is absent. For staff, Eric Sampson is present, as well as Madeline Hinkford and Bryan Isham. And then from Pinyon Environmental, we have Ashley Bush.
All right, that moves us to approval of the minutes. I looked at them, they looked fine to me, but is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, and hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
I'll second that.
So I didn't make the motion, but we'll treat Lauren as making the motion. Is there a second for Lauren's motion to approve?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from last week. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
I'll abstain since I was not present at the meeting.
So I think that's ayes from all except Jason with an abstention. Eric?
Yeah, so that's 3. I don't know. I don't know if that's enough to approve the minutes. Jason, what you could do is what I've done in situations like this in the past is what you could do is just go on record and say, I reviewed the minutes and I approve of what they say or agree to what was said. And then that basically puts you in a position to vote if you would like to.
Sure. Yeah, I did review them, kind of saw what was going on. So I did not have any comments and I would approve the minutes.
Okay,
So I think that
so then I will
changes
say,
4 ayes,
yep, ayes from all present.
right? Thank you. I don't see any members of the public present, but just to double check, are there any members of the public that are wanting to address the commission? All right, seeing none or hearing none, that will take us to old business, with the first item being the neighborhood maps update. And I'll turn it over to you, Matt, since you were at the council session. I don't know who else went. I couldn't be there. I think I mentioned last time I was in trial in Greeley when that session happened.
Okay, thank you. Who was everybody able to watch it? Was there any feedback or input from the council presentation? Madeline, how do you think it went? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. I thought it went really well. Council just had just one neighborhood that they would like us to review. And then I actually had a neighbor reach out to me from Forest Hill neighborhood. And when we drew the map, we actually got their north border incorrect. That north border should go up to Yale, not where we have it cut off right now. So if we could take a look at just changing that, that would also, I think, be good. But overall, I think it was great. Matt, I believe that council asked us to review the neighborhood of Leland Heights. Is that what you thought also?
Yes, to review it, I had a conversation with Councilmember Woodward and Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem. His name is Steve Ward. And had conversations with them after the meeting. They both felt fairly strongly about renaming Leland Heights as Clayton, after the school that's in that area. There's also a fair bit of history around the Clayton family and name in Englewood. They were Lions. They're pretty prominent in Englewood. Leland Heights was one of a few of these neighborhoods that was difficult to name. So while it does represent a original subdivision in the area, it somewhat loosely represents it in the shape that it's in. So initially, honestly, I don't have a whole lot of I guess pushback on that. I'd like to ask the rest of the commission on their opinion. Before we get to that, though, I do want to mention too the neighborhood of Belle Isle, which is it's kind of the connection across Santa Fe over in what would be the south. What would this be? I guess it's kind of it's not really the center, it's the southwest corner of the city, the Belle Isle neighborhood. We were asked, I was asked by Councilmember Woodward the history of the Belle Isle name, and it is a rather prominent subdivision that existed in that area. Now it's largely commercial in that part of Englewood, but there was different subdivision names that did exist, not many of them. And we didn't have a whole lot to choose from in that area, but Belle Isle seemed to be less commercial and, well, honestly, it was the only not commercial. I mean, you can see, like Englewood Commercial Industrial Center was kind of an example, or CET Gardens, or subdivisions that were largely named after businesses in that part of town because it's all commercial. Well, Belle Isle was one of the only ones that didn't represent a commercial entity or an industrial moniker to the name. The spelling of Belle Isle on the Arapahoe County map is actually different than the original map, and I was able to come across, and I'd like to get this scanned in so we can have this record. But Belle Isle was an original property owner in the area, and I'm not sure how to say his first name, but it's Thos. Thos. J. Belle Isle, and it's spelled differently actually on this original map that I was able to find. It's Belisle. So yeah, it's kind of hard to, I don't know if that was changed at a later time to, and there's an area in this part of the city that's called Belle Isle Gardens, that was the subdivision. So that's what was largely named after that. So kind of don't want to jump around here too much, but there's 2 points of feedback from the meeting. Is that the Belle Isle name seems interesting, kind of a little bit out of place, and also council requested that we change the other neighborhood, Leland, to Clayton. So I guess starting off the first one, I'll share my screen here. I've got just the Google one here. Everybody can see my screen okay. This is Leland Heights currently. This is where Mayor Pro Tem Ward lives, and was recommended as Clayton Elementary Schools in this neighborhood. It was recommended that we rename this neighborhood as Clayton. Any input from the rest of the board on this? Any concerns?
I don't have any input or concerns. I guess my question to you, Matt, is what do you think about that, since you've been so intimately involved in this from the beginning?
Sure. I personally don't have a concern on it. Like I mentioned, it was a difficult one to name from the beginning. If there's a strong opinion, very strong opinion by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Ward and Councilmember Woodward, I think, I think that there's probably a good argument to consider it. If it was, I mean, I know Melinda would back me up on this one. If it was Broadway, Sawyers Heights, our neighborhood, and wanted to name it after, something different, I'd say that something being more defined of an area, I think it would have been a more difficult argument. But considering that this was one of those more difficult ones to name, I think I wouldn't personally have any concern on it, but wanted to see what the rest of the commission thought.
Yeah, I have no
And being-
concerns.
Being involved from the get-go, I'm thinking that sounds great, because I know there was a melding of 3 different neighborhoods in that area. Is that right?
That's correct.
3 different developments at least. So I agree with if there's any heartfelt statements, then I say go with it. Yeah.
And I'll bring up the Arapahoe County map if I can find the right place here. And actually, I think I've got it right here. So I'm going to switch screens. I'll do that. Yes, there. Share screen. There we go. To that one. Share.
I'm just going to jump really fast.
Yeah.
I don't have any concerns about switching the name. I've actually been doing some more research on each of the neighborhoods to kind of enhance the little pop-ups for the neighborhood map. And I was seeing a lot about the Clayton family as I was doing research. So I think it makes sense to do this.
Well, good. Yeah, and I appreciate that support on this too. This portion of the city, I've got it on my screen here. If everybody can see the Adobe map here, and you'll make note that you see in this area Leland Heights, Kohler, and the Stevens subdivision is largely in that area. But let it reload here. As you can see, just above that, actually, I think bordering just the very top edge of the division that we have, there's a lot of subdivisions. Morse, Greens. So I think going off of what we have and what we have to work with here. Leland was the most prominent in that area, but I don't think there's a strong opinion in either, either direction here to maintain that. And Madeline, we didn't get a whole lot of feedback from the community in that neighborhood, did we?
We did not. And to be honest, Leland was the Bellevue Park neighborhood before, and then we kind of combined, and people, really liked the idea of having Bellevue Park instead of Leland Heights. And so this was a newer neighborhood, but nothing was super strong, and no opinions came out super strong in that area of wanting to name it one thing or another.
Okay. Good. What other information did you find on that in that area? You'd mentioned that you'd done some research on that with the Clayton family.
Well, to be honest, I've been researching just all the neighborhoods, and I wasn't finding a whole lot on that area, but I was seeing a lot about the Clayton family. Off the top of my head, I don't necessarily recall it being tied directly to that area, but I also, since I was looking for information more like on Leland Heights and those boundaries, I wasn't necessarily like making a connection between that and the Clayton family, if that makes sense. But I do recall seeing just the Clayton name coming up a lot. So well, I can look at it all, look at my notes and look at it all more over the next week or so and get back to you.
Sure, that'd be helpful. And I'd like to also consider, Belle Isle. It's a cool name. It is a really cool name. And as you see on here, there's Belle Isle Gardens, third filing, for the other subdivision, which I'll go ahead. Let's yeah, come on over. Can everybody see the map again? Let's see. What do you stop share?
Yes, we can.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and go to screen two. Okay, here it is. So this is this whole area here, which is largely commercial. This is the other one that I'd like to consider possibly rename, just from the feedback after the council meeting. Lauren, have you found any additional information on that area?
No, I haven't. That one was certainly more challenging, and I was kind of starting with the easier ones, to be honest. So I haven't found anything or didn't dig too deep into Belle Isle yet.
It's a cool name. It sounds honest, and I guess I need to be careful in saying this, but it sounds like a casino. It doesn't really have the ring of a name in Englewood, but we didn't have much to choose from in that area. There is history behind it. There's no doubt there's history there, but I don't know if there's two different spellings that we're working with that name, and the actual spelling is I'll type this out here so you can see it. It's B-E-L-I, it's lowercase I, obviously, so S-L-E. So that's the actual, let me try to get that right, B-E-L-I-S-L-E. So that's Belle Isle is the guy's last name. And this other map that I got, and I'm going to actually try to scan this in so we can all have it just for record, because this does substantiate a lot of the work we've done. But this is the original plotting map of some sort where it showed some of the subdivisions that existed, but areas of Englewood that were not incorporated at the point in time of this map. I believe it was just dated likely sometime around the 1920s. But it shows the original land ownership. And in that area, we have names such as Gutierrez, so P.R. Gutierrez, John Hill, Hildebrand, Bowers, Williams, Boyles, Brown, Cabine, Hazard. So there's a lot of different names in that area that aren't actually on the Arapahoe County map here, that don't exist, that apparently didn't make it into subdivisions on the Arapahoe County map. So wanted to ask the rest of the commission, and also ask Madeline, what's the opinion on changing that subdivision name also?
I would vote against it.
Okay.
And that there was a lot of objection of people having industrial as a word in their neighborhood. And so it really needed to be changed to something. And like you, I think Belle Isle is a cooler name.
It is a really interesting name. It is actually a really interesting name. And there's evidence to show that there was some sort of Belle Isle Gardens that existed there, which is kind of neat. And this, we changed the spelling to this way, I think would be more appropriate, because that is actually the guy's last name, Belisle.
So do we have any info on him at all? Because obviously the reservoir and the dam is named after him. I don't know anything about him.
No, I don't have any additional information. Which reservoir are you talking about?
I guess it's right above the, well, like when you typed it in, right underneath it, when you were typing in the spelling, it showed up. And it looks like it's right up there by the canine corral.
Belle Isle Reservoir. Oh, wow.
Layton and Windermere.
So that's actually interesting. Belle Isle Reservoir. I don't, I can't say that I actually drew that association, but well done, CJ.
Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh no, it just said Brandon Belle Isle. Never mind.
Belle Isle Reservoir
is a resident of Colorado.
So yeah, the guy's name is THOS.
A lot of times THOS was short for Thomas.
Okay, interesting. Thomas Belle Isle. Well, Belle Isle Reservoir, it's not, the reservoir is not in this. Well, that almost substantiates that further, actually.
Right.
I can't believe I didn't even notice that. And Belle Isle Reservoir, is this part of the, where's that at? It's not part of the treatment plant, is it? That is the treatment.
No.
Yeah, the water treatment plant, the clean water Allen plant's right here.
Oh. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that being said, that kind of changes it. I mean,
it gives it a little more depth anyway.
It totally does. So I appreciate that. Yeah, that's I guess the joke that kind of came across my mind is it sounds like a casino up in the mountains. Like that would actually be a really good name for a casino.
I believe it's something near Detroit or like across the river in Canada. Because my mother mentioned it when she was stationed there when she was in the Navy, and Belle Isle was a place that they would go to sow wild oats or whatever. But
interesting.
Well, that would fit with our, what were those, that era of our history?
Yeah.
I actually stand corrected on that one. I'd imply then that we keep that, and unless there's anybody else has another opinion on that, but there's further evidence I think to show history there.
I wish I could find something. I don't have that book. I never bought that book, but I know you can get into it from from the library. I've just never done it to get into the Englewood history book and, let's see if that name pops up.
I might try to do that next week here. Get down to the library and see if I can look that up and see if that name is prominent. That's another good idea there. Lauren, do you have access to that book too? Have you heard about the Englewood history book?
Yes, I do. I've been using it a lot actually to get information. So I can definitely look up more information on Thomas Belle-Isle and kind of see who he was and what he was all about.
Sure. Okay, cool. Well, I would, I don't know if we need to make a formal motion to make the change here to call this Clayton, but is there any further opposition, any further discussion to change Leland to Clayton?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh,
Dun, da, da, da.
And I will, I just for good measure, I'll reach out to Councilmember Woodward and Mayor Pro Tem Ward and let them know that appreciate the input. And,
Exactly.
let them know that we're moving forward on that. Madeline, what do you need from me on this?
I just have one more point of clarification. I just want to make sure that the commission is okay with expanding the Forest Hill neighborhood up to Yale.
So according to
yours, it's correct, and the map that we have, it is not correct. So we will make that change on our end then, on the city end.
Can I, if I stop sharing, can you share your screen so we can see what you're looking at?
Yeah, I also did put the map in the chat, but I can share it quickly.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, you want to share it just so we get record?
Yeah. Okay. Now let's stop the share. Okay, can you see this?
I do now.
Okay.
Yep.
So on here, Forest Hill ends at, it looks like Amherst, and it should go all the way up to Yale.
Is that the only other difference that we?
Yes, I did confirm that.
Their cookbook lists Amherst is their northern part, but I don't suppose they'd be too upset if we expanded them one block further.
That is true, and I was reached out by a neighbor there just for that clarification. So that sounds great. I'm going to let Eric take it from here. I don't think there's anything else that we need from the commission. I believe that we just bring this back to council. Is that correct, Eric?
Yep. I would like, if you guys are comfortable with that, like a motion to approve the map with the current changes to bring to council for a formal approval or formal recognition, however you want to put that. And then we'll be able to keep this moving forward.
Sure. Can I throw something out there real fast? So Lauren's doing the kind of background work on this, and I think that's really important. And just in case there's something that pops up where maybe there's a slightly different name or slight modification in between that time that she's, that we're doing this, we want to push this until the next meeting and do the final vote then, or would you like to try to get this moving a little faster?
So the only thing with the next meeting is that's the one we're going to have the public engagement meeting with the neighborhood survey.
Okay.
So then thusly that would be pushed to July.
Is that too late?
Why do you think we need to delay it, Matt?
I'll also say I'm just kind of doing the research when I have time. So I don't know that there's any sort of, I don't know that, if I do find changes that will, or, uncover something, it will happen anytime soon. So I wouldn't want like us to push it back because of that, and then, nothing come of it, or I don't have time to do the research.
Okay. Well, in that case, let's obviously very much appreciate the help with this, Lauren, with doing the kind of the background on this. It's hugely helpful with this because it helps to substantiate, the work that's been done on this with the various people beforehand and the various changes and work done. So it's hugely helpful with everything that you're doing, Lauren. But no rush, no push on that then. And if I don't know if the commission's ready to vote on this
Go ahead and make a motion first, Matt. I'll second it.
Okay, so I move that the commission approves the map with the changes discussed this evening, which include the changes to the official map for the Forest Hill neighborhood, the change of Leland Heights to Clayton, and the change of spelling of Belle Isle to the exact name of Belle Isle, so Belisle.
So seconded.
Eric, do you want to take a roll call, or do you just want me to call for a vote?
Let's do roll call.
Okay, go ahead.
Chair Crabtree.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cash Parker.
Aye.
CJ.
Aye.
Melinda.
Aye.
Lauren.
Aye.
And Jason.
Aye.
And Hannah is absent. So. Motion.
And if I can make one more oh wait, so I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, make one more statement. It was kind of understood. I remember that whole discussion of maybe it might be more fluid, as we get more information or someone, gives us some more information that can always be added to notes when they're verified. So I don't think there's that pressure on Lauren or anybody else that may find information to add to the maps.
I think that's a good idea. We obviously have to be cognizant of, a lot of these neighborhoods are named after people's names, and we have to be cognizant of the history that goes along with that. And should anything come up where that, might become a problem or anything has to be changed as a result of that, I think that's a good way to look at it. They'll make note that I know there has been discussion about having street sign toppers with the names. So that probably makes it a little bit more permanent when we get to that point, but I'm sure we're a ways away from that.
And Madeline, I was just curious on the map viewer that you send out, not every neighborhood is listed with a name there. Is that just because my computer's not seeing it, or?
You have to, you have to zoom in to see some of them. Yeah.
Okay.
On that
But
particular
CJ,
map.
we will have a map when we put it out there to the public after it gets hopefully adopted by council, and every name will be on that map.
I
so
see.
everyone will be able to see it. This
Okay,
is just
thanks,
the GIS
Josh.
version.
Thank you.
But thank you for all your hard work on this, and thank you, Matt, for presenting to council and just really spearheading this effort. So thank you.
You're welcome.
A point of information. I Googled Thomas Belle Isle, and all I got is an author of thrillers who died recently. I don't think that's the one that had to do with early Englewood, but
Oh, who knows?
yeah. No, he's too young. Or he was too young. He was born in 1964.
A distant relation, perhaps, to the Belle Isles of Englewood.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for all your work, and thanks, Madeline.
And that was a great
Yeah.
presentation at council too.
Okay, well, folks, I want to spend some time with Ashley and Harper this evening, so I'll be signing off the meeting this evening, if that's all right with everybody. Is there going to be a forum if I do that?
There is.
Well,
Have a good evening.
Yes, congrats. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Yeah, hope you're not too sleep deprived.
no, well, 3-hour blocks of sleep. So,
That's great that you're sharing in the endeavor. Good job. Give Ashley a hug for me. And Harper.
and Harper.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all.
See you, Matt. With that brings us to our next piece of old business, which is the Historic Survey Progress Report. And Ashley Bushy from Pinyon is here. And I know there was an opportunity, I think Eric collected questions. I personally didn't submit any. I did look at the report, but I'll turn it over to Ashley to update us and address questions that were submitted.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for your time tonight. Sounds like I'm echoing a little bit. Okay. It sounds like everybody has had an opportunity to take a look at the document, and I do have comments that came through from Melinda, Jason, and Lauren, and have been working through those on the document. They are fantastic. Thank you very much. I think that's going to push us forward to a stronger product, hopefully one that's more usable for your community. I was hoping we could use this a little bit as a working session on some of those comments to kind of workshop how to push those forward. Some are a little bit more nuts and bolts, and some I think a little bit more discussion. I do have a version of the document on my other screen if we want to open that up at some point, or I can have that open as we scroll through. Does anyone have a preference?
Please open.
Please
Yeah.
open. Okay, let's see if I can do this on Zoom. Are we seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, you can tell I'm a Teams native and not a Zoom native, right?
That's what we do.
So you'll see that now that the comments are coming in, there'll be sections that are highlighted as I'm working through. So those areas, the wording may be still working out and that kind of thing. So kind of going through where we are. I moved this this word cloud about what makes Englewood unique up here in order to incorporate, this is a comment that came from Lauren, an interest in what folks responded to in terms of what landmark represents the history of Englewood. And we did have a word cloud for that. Broadway, front and center. So this gives us that, that touch point of what came through from the folks that participated in the survey. And again, we had really robust public survey participation. We had 130 something participants, which is the most I've seen from any community when we've run these in the past. So we did get a really wide range of landmarks that folks responded with. And of course, as word clouds work, the ones that are larger and more prominent are the ones that got the most responses, and the ones that are smaller and a little bit more faded in the back are the ones that got fewer responses. Forward. There was a request to have a little bit more discussion of what a reconnaissance survey is and how some of the adaptations might be applied. So I will get that in here as well. And then Jason, this came from you. So in Compass, I used Compass, the system that has all of the resources that have been previously surveyed in the state to source state and national register listed properties. It sounds like there are a few that are not in Compass. I back checked these. Key savings and loan is in Compass, but doesn't reflect its national register status. So I wondered if you would be able to speak to this or provide additional information.
Yeah, so basically what that is because Compass has about a backlog of like 5 years.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't reflect any of those more recently listed properties. You know, and actually they're currently not updating Compass because we're going to be moving to an updated system later this year. So yeah, those are just ones that we've had recently listed, for information and copies of the nominations. They're available on our website, on our National and State Register tab. And then they're also, reflected in our internal database can be queried by file search, Argus. So that was why they didn't come up when you looked at Compass, but all the nominations should be attached to that, to our website. And if you need something like, photos for your table down there too, we cut out the current photo pages for the ones that go on the website just because of the website capacity, but you can just ask me and I can send you the full things too.
There's a voicemail on your work phone from today.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was working from home, so did not get it. Thank you.
Hey, you've been asked. Thank you, Jason, for making sure
Yes.
this is getting in there.
I'm really glad that you're on this commission so that we have this update here for these. There's another question in here. This is coming up, this one. So in the Recon survey, so the limited Recon survey we did, we had a couple questions that came up about that. And I think rightfully so, right? So this was an opportunity to offer a little bit more background into what the purpose of that limited recon was. And it really was an opportunity to take a look at resources that aren't necessarily the ones that come front of mind when we think about history of the city, get a little bit broader dispersion of time period, type, geographic distribution, and use that in harmony with the archival research, guidance from this commission, and input from the public to really drive what our survey priorities and areas might look like. So we did have 128 mostly randomly selected properties. And then in the attachment document that has that thumbnail and very limited information about each property that we took a look at, there is a connection to overall historic theme, where we're trying to identify what's kind of coming up over and over, what might be more limited, what's not coming up. And as an added feature, included a rating of high, medium, or low, which is a fairly typical recon type rating for those as individual resources, not necessarily as they reflect a larger theme or a larger potential district. And something that was missing was really an explanation of what is meant by those. And so those are on the screen at this point. Again, high being something that based just on that visual inspection, right? This is a really limited time that we're spending with each of these individual resources, that they do seem to have fairly high historic integrity based on that just visual inspection, including form and materials. If there are replacement materials or additions, those are sensitive or appear to be sensitive to the historic character. However, there's a caveat here that rarity of the resource type in the city may be a reason to bump something that is a little bit more challenged on integrity up into a higher priority. And then medium is more in that moderate category, but something that may be of greater importance as part of a larger whole district, something along those lines, or a neighborhood, rather than as an individual resource. And then low, again, something that fairly obviously has some challenges with integrity, high degree of replacement materials on the exterior envelope, or additions that visibly obscure the form. Or it might be something that is just very, very, very common, and there are much better examples in other areas of the city. Anything folks might want to add or clarify to those? Okay. There's one of my working paragraphs that needs a little cleanup. There was a question on this map. I love this map. I had exported it as a JPEG. I re-exported it as a TIFF and added it in. I think it is a little clearer than it was before. This is also something that has been provided to the city and can be re-provided in PDF, TIFF, and or JPEG. It was originally intended to be poster size printed, so it is a little harder compressed into this document. And the GIS files that created this can all be provided to the city as well. They're all nuanced by a decade of construction. I think before we get into this, I and I may be jumping ahead, but I wanted to make sure I touched base on, I think this actually comes up in our 19th century discussion, but while we're here kind of looking at this map is based on dates of construction that are in assessor records, Arapahoe County assessor records. And for folks that work with those, we know they're not always extremely accurate. They are a really good suggestion that gets you into the general time period that properties were constructed, particularly older properties that go into the 19th century, get a little bit more accuracy as we move forward through the 20th century. So that was a question that came up too, and again, rightfully so, using assessor records. Only 6 properties within the entire city actually have a date of construction in the assessor records that predates 1900, so dates from the 19th century, which does, as it was pointed out, exclude the Scarrett House, and the rationale is that it is actually recorded in the assessor as 1911, which corresponds to a campaign of renovations that were done to the property around that time. But as we know, it was actually constructed in the middle part of the 19th century. So that discussion is now included in the 19th century section to illustrate. So there was already a discussion that said, you know, these records are not always perfect. This is something that needs more research to demonstrate, you know, what the composition of extant 19th century resources actually is in the city. And then I used the Scarrett House as an example of one that we know was actually constructed earlier, but using this methodology gets bumped into a decade later or a couple decades later. Questions on that one? Historic context. Again, this is not a context project. Unfortunately, I would love to sit and do a lot of more research on the city because it is utterly fascinating. There are some areas that were pointed out, and I have notes to flesh out some details, including more residential development. One I am really excited to show you was on the location of Hannah Higgins' original land. Interestingly, I went back and pulled the patents that were issued to her. There are 2, one from 1868 and one from 1874. Neither are actually under the Homestead Act, any of the 3 Homestead Acts. One is under the Scrip Warrant Act of 1855, which permitted veterans of the Revolutionary and Indian Wars to claim land. So she claimed it as a widow as part of her husband's service. And in the patent document itself, it immediately transfers the land away from her. But in 1874, she patented land under the Land Act of 1820, which is the cash entry option. So she actually purchased that land. We do have the location there. What I really enjoyed, and I have the document on the next page, is that you can see where they erased the word his for his, I think it was for his heirs and assigns forever, right? That this would be her land to pass forward, and then wrote the term her.
Cool.
It's very interesting. So I included it because it was just too good. So it's right here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because it's just so fun to see. So you can see right there where they erased his and added her. And I did export this as a TIFF, hoping that it would get a little bit, you know, greater clarity because it is hard to see. But that's pretty interesting history.
Good for you, Hannah.
Right?
Good for Hannah.
Yay.
If I'm missing anything that folks wanted to stop at, please let me know.
Would it be uncool to kind of highlight that, or do you never do that? You just kind of
Well,
leave
I
the way
thought
it
about
is?
that. I've done that where I'll add a circle around it.
Yeah.
What I could do is add, you know, and then the historian in me thought, well, even though it is a reproduction, it damages it, right? You could do a call out box if that's of interest.
I have to be honest, I don't know what a call out box is.
So I could do like a screenshot that goes right here and
I see.
A blown up version in the corner.
Oh, cute. That'd be nice. Thank you. Just because that's the main purpose. I mean, the main interest to me, besides her name, of course.
Let me make a note so I don't miss that. And I might actually, if it fits, I might pop it up here and have the whole document here. Play with it. A few asks again, a lot more about residential development, introduction for the new deals section. There's a lot of fun as well. This was a beautiful story. But there was a Japanese family in the 1930s, 1940s in Englewood who were actually targeted for relocation under Executive Order 9066, which is what forced folks into internment camps. And reportedly, they were not removed because their neighbors vouched for them. And what was really interesting to me, I went back to see if I could find documentation that supported that. They do appear in the 1930 and the 1940 and the 1950, which has now been released census, and don't appear to have moved. They are in the same house. There's also a World War II draft card in one of the sons' names from 1942.
One of those stories that Doug found out about where the military came in a train and actually to go get them, and the city stood there not with guns or anything and just said no, don't take them, and they got back in their train and left.
Unbelievable. I've never heard a story like that, so this is really was really wonderful to see. So this section, oh, I really hope I didn't do what I just think I did. Okay, this section we pulled from the bylaws of the Preservation Commission, but there was a comment that it felt a little bit awkward, and I wondered if there are if there's another source of goals or objectives that the commission would like to see highlighted in this section.
What makes it awkward to you?
I think Lauren, the comment came from you. Do you want to express?
Yeah, that was my comment. It wasn't necessarily that the content was awkward. It just felt like out of place, like all of a sudden to have the goals there. So I was thinking, is there just, can you add like a sentence or two kind of tying it to the rest of that chapter or the rest of that section? Like, you know, just kind of, hey, as a refresher, these are the goals of the Preservation Commission, and this survey is here to support them. Or I don't know. Especially, I apologize. I don't have it. I can't see your screen, so I don't have it right in front of me. But just a sentence or two to kind of tie it to the rest of that section, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I wonder if we can move it. And Jason, you might be able to give us some insight into that. Following the outline provided by the state, I would love to see it more up by introduction. Do you think that that's possible to just move this section?
I would think so. And, that kind of fits with that more informational early kind of sections of the survey plan. So I think it makes sense rather than kind of popping up there, kind of frames, the goals of the commission and how this fits in it. So, yeah.
I think someone else had a comment and I think I talked over them. I apologize. Into the recommendations section. And again, this is where we had that comment on understanding a little bit more about how we arrived at the numbers for the 19th century. And wherever possible, I've tried to offer some strategies for where information, we don't fully have the information we would want, what it might look like and what sources it might look like, to start to kick off a survey that answers a few more of these questions. So offer that example around Thomas Garrett. I think there were a couple locations where I didn't specify which OAHP form. Good catch, Lauren. So that is fixed now. And also one of these we talked about, what's it? Okay, yeah, in this area, we want to highlight a range of architectural styles. So I'll work on that section as well. And then there was a lot on post-war growth, because of course that is one of the most strong themes in the area, and wanting a map of the locations of the subdivision. I am going to try to pull that off. And I think with what I just watched with the neighborhood mapping project, I think we can probably do that. What I would love to do, so I pulled subdivisions that are identified in the pre-existing multiple property documentation form on historic residential subdivisions, and then additional ones that were highlighted within that recon phase. If there are others that folks know of that they definitely want highlighted here, please let me know. And then what I would really love to do, and I'll either suggest it and create an example, or if I can swing it, I'll try to create an appendix. When I do a historic district survey, and particularly a subdivision survey, GIS is usually the first thing I use, and I create a map very similar to the city map we have, but for that subdivision. And again, shade by decade, 5-year increments, 1-year increments, whatever I'm trying to demonstrate, because it tells me whether or not I have, like a holistically planned and constructed subdivision, if it has, a lot of infill development, or if maybe it developed over a period of time. So it gives me an idea of what kind of story I might be looking at in that particular area. If we were able to, again, I'll either make this as a recommendation for further evaluation of subdivisions in the city and provide an example, or again, if I can swing it, I'll get this in an appendix. Take the platted subdivisions in Englewood and do that exercise, because I think that's going to tell us a lot about where we have really cohesive development from the 1950s, 60s, and or 70s, where we have areas that just developed kind of organically over time and weren't necessarily a planned subdivision, where we may have had a planned subdivision, but it has, what kind of percentage of infill development from latter periods, and use that as a one tool, right? Obviously, there's historic significance planning earlier subdivisions versus later subdivisions, but that is a tool in looking at where we have cohesive representation from the period. And I think, Lauren, a lot of those questions, comments kind of came from you. Does that start to get us where we're going in terms of having more recognition of this period of history?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's just, like I said, like Arapahoe Acres, some of those other subdivisions, they're really neat. They're really unique. But, I look around my neighborhood and other areas of the city, and I don't see that level of architectural style. And, I see just more kind of run-of-the-mill, minimal traditional homes that have a history here in Englewood. They tell a story too. So I just wanted to see that kind of discussed and make sure that in future surveys, kind of those areas are taken into consideration too.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's something I don't have in here, is that we want to make sure that we're representing the mid-mod, contemporary, and the minimal traditional equitably.
And just so you know, we don't use the word contemporary with mid-mod.
We don't what?
We don't use the word contemporary with mid-mod. Mid-century modern. Contemporary is a different dynamic, just FYI.
Yes, yes.
Real quick, the Broadway Heights, the Bellwood, and the Brookridge, since Matt's gone, anybody else savvy enough, were those in our maps? Like,
I saw this one when I was looking.
I don't think we use the word Wallenwebers, we just use Broadway Heights.
I did actually see that. That one's iconic enough.
And then Madeline, do you know Bellwood or Brookridge Heights?
Madeline had to take off. She's not.
Oh, okay, okay. So, all right, sorry, I don't have any answers, so my fault. Okay, it was just one of those things like, oh, that continuity would be good for us to connect that.
You know, and sorry, and Ashley, one thing that maybe kind of ties to Lauren's comment as well that I kind of waffled on addressing, but maybe even kind of in the early part of that survey recommendation 3, the residential neighborhoods. You know, I don't know if, as you know, since it's kind of like a guide of what tools are out there as well, you know, maybe mentioning the National Park Service, their historic residential suburbs, guidelines for evaluation and documentation for the National Register. And
that's really good.
Yeah, I don't think, again, it's something that has to be belabored, but just kind of nice, maybe similar how you just referenced that tool and the post work, you know, the subdivisions stuff. So.
Are there any known subdivisions that folks on this call know of that are not represented here and you definitely want named, called out in the document?
I do not.
No.
Not that I can think of, yeah.
I'm gonna have to clean up now my page breaks.
And I just checked, and Wallen Weber's Broadway Heights does not show on our current map.
I wonder if, I think it does in the little subtitle, you know, what do you call those little addendum stuff? It says originally of Broadway Heights, but not seeing the words, it's like, oh, bummer. Oh,
It
well.
might be, yeah.
There were some comments on the Recon Survey itself. I don't have it attached. It's actually a separate document and I combined them in a PDF. So a couple of the comments included, again, that prioritization, whether something might be high, medium, or low. So I've added that clarification. That was really good insight. And then for everything that's residential, I added other residential development, and then whether or not it was, you know, post-war, more in the downtown core, not in the downtown core, took that out. So yeah, can accommodate all of those comments. And if anyone had any further comments on that recon attachment, again, please let me know. I'm happy to accommodate. Or if somebody feels, you know, really strongly that something was prioritized in the wrong location, again, it's a tool. It's not meant to be the definitive last call on any of those resources as individuals, because it is so limited. So as research progresses, you know, we may understand that you know, something has a thematic history that just doesn't get expressed in its architecture, right? So this is an architecture only assessment in that case. And that does bring us to the end of the document. And I think we've discussed most of the comments that were more more open-ended, I guess is the word I'm searching for, right? As opposed to just, you know, add this nuts and bolts. Are there any other feedback that folks have, sections you think needed a little bit more, you feel you wanted to see?
Well, I wish there was a way to make it a little more layman's terms. I mean, I can appreciate Jason and Lauren really understanding how this flows. The idea of maybe even at the very beginning, that this was just one step of so many steps that could help the city of Englewood's with his history, right? Could there be just that type of listing, just that, you know, when you do historical work and documentation, this was the first pass, and these are the next 4 or 6 passes that we may want to consider within the near future. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
I like that a lot. Yeah. Add to that introduction, what the intent again of this was. This is one step, and then next steps may include, and we can talk about outgrowth of survey, we can talk about public interaction, we can talk about historic context development, right? That this is a springboard.
Right. I think for people to understand that this is truly just only a very minimal foundational base. Well, not minimal, obviously, he did a hell of a lot of work, but I mean, heck of a lot of work. But that idea that that there is so much more that we could look towards for even more detail and more clarification, I think would be cool, because some people may think this is, well, that's all we needed. Yay, we're done.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Well, and by some people, I'm thinking, CJ, you mean like city council. And we kind of, I won't say need to dumb it down for them, but we need to make it very clear and simple. Yeah, and the executive summary goes a long way toward that. But because their attention span for historical things is not as long as ours.
And it's not fair to say it's just the city council. If you think about it, they're representative of our public. So that idea that, you know, there's going to be people, and I could even be one of them, but by page 5, I got to be honest, I was like, oh God, now what? You know, so thank you, Ashley, for putting human terms to this, because it really was like a few paragraphs there. I was like, what the heck? And then when you said it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But dumbing down is not a bad thing. Make it simple, keep it simple. How to rephrase things, I don't think that's Ashley's job, but exactly who or how, I don't know.
Could you give me an example of an area that felt a little clunky?
When you explained high, medium, and low. When you read that, I know that makes sense to you,
Okay.
but to me, it didn't until you verbalized.
Okay.
You didn't just read what was there. You know, you kind of described it, and I was like, oh, okay, now I get that. But you know, there's pockets like that everywhere, because you historians are so brilliant. I mean, seriously brilliant on that attention to detail, that you have to explain that attention to detail. It's just so many of me's out there. And the detail's fine, but what's the info? You know, what's the real cream of the crop here? You know?
If there's another section, CJ, or more sections, and if you want to highlight them now, or shoot me an email via Eric after, I'll take a pass at trying to make them more readable.
Okay. I recognize the work, and sometimes it's like, how do you balance what needs to go into the archives versus what's being used by the public on the street, you know?
Yeah, no, it's a good insightful comment. And if I can make it more approachable and accessible, then I will.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yeah, thank you very much for walking us through that. Sorry, Lauren, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was just going to also say thank you for all your work on this, Ashley. This is a really great document, and I'm excited to see where it takes us. But I do have to jump off. So thanks to everyone, and I will see you at next month's meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Lauren. See ya.
Hey, Lauren.
It's all the parents leaving us.
Ashley, remind us, what's your timeline to wrap this up that you're working with right now?
I think I'll bump that to Eric. We have a little bit of cushion in this grant contract, but I think Eric has a commitment internally.
I believe the deadline it's either August or September. But yeah, the next steps would be the kind of public outreach event that we're going to do in June. And then hopefully after that, we'll get the draft finalized and bring it before City Council.
Okay. And we do still have a quorum, barely. There's 4 of us here. So before we leave this, are there any other questions for Ashley or comments? All right.
I was fascinated to see that the house across the street from me is pre-1900, the A-frame one on South Lincoln. I did not realize it was that old, but if that's what the assessor's records say, and everything, I just neighborhood or urban legend or whatever has it that house is haunted. Just as a matter of interest.
I honestly believe haunting can sometimes come from just bad sewers.
Now, apparently, some people hear a baby crying where there is no baby.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you, Ashley. Thanks for your hard work on this and appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah, thanks,
This has
Ashley.
been a fabulous project. I mean, thank you for the opportunity to work on it and to share the history of your community.
All right. All right, Ashley, do you want to take down your screen share since we're finished up?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, appreciate that. That moves us to our next piece of old business, which is CodeNext. And Bryan Isham, Bryan, I hope I got your last name right, Community Development and Planning Manager, is with us for an update there. So I'll turn it over to Bryan.
Yes, sir. So we've had a couple of meetings. They started, prior to my getting here, but most recently we had a public outreach meeting on April 14th. I believe it was attended by about 41 folks in person and virtually. At that meeting, they used some polling software called Poll Everywhere or Poll Everyone. And then they kept that software up for a matter of weeks. And over that course of time, we had about 106 registered respondents for the project. So right now we're kind of digesting everything that they submitted, anywhere from parking to sustainability, questions on housing types and accessory dwelling units. And we're digesting that and kind of working towards, our consultants are working towards kind of starting to draft that new code. So I don't have much of an update without that. But if you have some questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Yeah, let me ask a couple questions. One, what's upcoming on the schedule? And this kind of gets into the next 2 points of old business about our potential involvement and our recommendations on Title 16. So what's coming up in the, I guess, not too distant future?
So what will be coming up is we're putting together a technical advisory committee. So that's staff members, Public Works, Parks, GIS, stormwater, sustainability, utilities. That's just to name a few that we'll get together, kind of review some of the drafts and some of the big picture items. And then what we want to do for our boards and commissions is kind of reach out and do, and we're still looking into it, either one large kind of study session with our boards and commissions, or if there's certain groups like yours that we may pull out and do kind of an individual study session. We're kind of working through that before we get to kind of our later stages of the code.
Sure.
What time frame is that? I'm sorry, just curious.
I don't have a time frame on when we would do that. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but right now we're working with our consultants to kind of build that time frame up.
I'm sorry, Bryan, are we looking at summer, fall this year? Are we looking at 2 years down the road?
I'm hoping summer. I don't want to put anything in your head though. We're trying to get that time frame put together right now.
Yeah. I certainly welcome others to comment, but I think this probably reflects the sentiment of this commission, which is to the extent that folks on your end would be willing to do a one-on-one session with our commission, I think we would be in favor of it, because as you're probably aware through Eric or just in general, this group spent quite a lot of time putting together specific recommendations on amendments to Title 16 that are specific to what this commission does. And so I think we'd appreciate that opportunity, because so if you put all the boards and commissions together, that's obviously a lot of people with a lot of different competing interests and priorities. And the advantage for doing it with our group separately, if you're able to, is we already have that specific proposal that we put hours and hours and hours into drafting and revising and looking at other, other comparable codes and other, similar municipalities and all of that. So that would be my thought. I don't know what others on the commission think on that point. Jason, I saw you nodding. I don't know if you had a thought on that as well.
No, I think that makes sense. I think it's maybe a little different with our board, because like you said, we put all that work with city attorneys and things like that, as well as kind of previous kind of council input. So I would certainly like to see something like that as well.
Mm-hmm. Melinda or CJ, did you have any questions or thoughts?
You articulated that exactly right. I mean, the amount of work we've done and had to sit and had to pull back, it was very frustrating. So that idea of that detail would be beautifully appreciated. That recognition of that, what it's saying and where we want to go with it. So thank you, Cash.
Well, and we already have run it past multiple city attorneys and the city council who decided to kick it back to the CodeNext project. So like I say, we're maybe ahead of some of the other boards and commissions.
Sort of what I was thinking. I didn't put it in quite those terms, but yeah, that's why it might be a little easier to meet with this group separately.
I'm not into being politically correct here.
And Eric, I think this came up at the last meeting. As far as these general public meetings, I think the consensus after our discussion with you was we can't appear as a commission or in any sort of official capacity at those. Was my memory right about that from last month's discussion?
Yep. Like you can attend as a citizen of Englewood, but if you were to get up and make a comment or anything like that, just be sure to iterate that while you're on the Historic Preservation Commission, you are not speaking for the commission, or you're not there on the commission's behalf.
Yeah. So Brian, I think to the extent you're having these conversations about how to interact with the boards and commissions, ours is one that would very much welcome and appreciate having an individual session or multiple sessions to go over our specific proposals, if that's possible.
Understood.
Any other thoughts or questions for Brian before we leave that topic for our new business? All right.
Thank you,
Brian,
Brian,
thank
for
you.
what will be. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the update, and thanks for your time, and thanks for carrying our request back to all the people involved in the CodeNext project. Appreciate it. So that moves us to new business. There's a couple of items here. The first one is the June open house event. And Eric, you're the one I think who probably has the details about that, if you want to go over that.
Yep. So that will be taking place in the library. And that's basically going to be, we'll probably have a couple poster boards there showing details from the survey. It'll also give the public an opportunity to come around, maybe ask questions of Pinyon and of the HPC regarding the survey and the process. And basically just kind of showcase what has been done with this project. And then, yeah, so that will be in lieu of the June Historic Preservation meeting. And you'll be getting more kind of like an official invite out. I'm going to be working with communications to get out the word of the event and go from there.
I was curious, how come there and not Hamden Hall?
I don't know. I was thinking of the library for the first open house that we had for the neighborhood survey, and the setup there worked really, really well. It was kind of a round table. There was a good flow to it. So
Okay.
I thought that would be a great place to have it if it was available, and it does seem like it is. So if for some reason it's not Hampton Hall, would probably be the back.
I was curious, does this information, the Englewood Herald I get, not many people do, I'm guessing, but I've never seen our stuff in there. Is there some sort of relationship issue with the Herald, or is it because of timing, or do you have any ideas?
That I don't know. Nothing that I've been involved with has gone to the Herald. I don't know if communications has put something out in that respect. I would have to check with them, but
No, I also get the Herald, and I've noticed there's never anything about, there was nothing, for instance, about our November open house.
So any type of thing, if you could encourage, because I think sometimes communications forgets about the Herald because it isn't the big thing. But and then obviously next door, sometimes things show up there and sometimes things don't show up there. And again, if those two resources could be utilized, I'd really appreciate it.
yeah, I'll ask communications to see if they can utilize the Herald to get out this event, because I know they'll be doing the usual lines of communication, being Englewood engaged in the Englewood City website. So, but yeah, I'll ask about the Herald and see.
And nextdoor.com.
And Nextdoor.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Eric, is it June 15th, the regularly scheduled time, third Wednesday of the month at 6:30?
Yep.
Okay. Just making a note of that. Okay. Thanks, Eric, for the information about that. The last new business item is future meetings format, and I'm happy to have a brief discussion about this, because I think we need everybody here to have a full discussion about this, particularly Matt, since he's the chairman, about whether we want to stay virtual or back to in-person or hybrid. My thought is that it should be essentially hybrid. I would like to have in-person meetings, but the virtual option is really helpful for me. And I know for Matt too, because we both travel for work. So being able to do it virtually and having that available would be my preference, but having it in person, but with the virtual option available. I don't know what others think about it. Any thoughts?
CJ has thoughts. Number one, my camera's broken, but I'll get that fixed. I just forgot. But that idea that this virtual to me is awesome. I have no idea how hybrid would work. The idea of, parents with new kids, I'm guessing this gives them a lot of flexibility. I feel that this is just perfect. Being in person, forgive me, I would love to see you guys. We can do it. We can't do it, right? But that idea of just talking this way seems so efficient and so productive.
Yeah,
I just love it.
It's fine with me. Same. I would be, if not hybrid, pure virtual is fine for me too. I agree with you about all that. It's just having a virtual option available, I think is important. But Melinda, Jason, what do you think?
No, I would, I think, like to stay virtual as much as possible. It's not only because COVID is surging again, and who knows what's going to happen, but also the convenience of, how many screen shares do we do this evening? That was always difficult to be looking at the same thing when we were in person. So there are some conveniences to being.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, I think there's, with people's other daily responsibilities and stuff, there's a lot of utility in the virtual, but I'm also not too wedded to other to that for other options of hybrid and whatnot.
Sure. I would say, Eric, that this should be placed on, I guess it'll be the July agenda under old business. Do we need to move to table it, or are we okay to just carry it forward to the next agenda?
I think it's okay to just put it on the
Okay.
July agenda.
Yeah, perfect. Because I just want to hear, my suspicion is that others will be in agreement with what we all said, but we should let them weigh in before we decide.
Hey, Eric, have you seen how the other boards across Englewood are evolving with this? Or
So
heard?
both board planning and zoning and Board of Adjustment are both still all entirely virtual. Those are the ones I can speak to since those are kind of in my wheelhouse.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. With that, staff's choice. Eric, do you have anything?
No, I was just going to welcome on the new planning manager, Bryan Isham, and he's already introduced himself, so that was all I had on my agenda.
Yes. Thanks.
Well,
Thanks
that was
again.
easy.
Yeah, thanks again, Brian. Commissioner's choice. I'll start. I know, Eric, you and I and Matt corresponded about this. We didn't hear back from Dave Cuesta. Did we send the letter to him?
Yeah, I don't know if we want to keep trying to reach out to him. I know he's notoriously difficult to get to respond to emails, but we can keep plugging away because I know he was interested.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'd say, unless anyone has an objection, is Eric, if you, I know I've asked him and you've asked him as well, if you want to try again, just to see if he can come, since we've got roughly 60 days until that meeting. Certainly would like to recognize him. So if I know he's busy, probably not thinking about city business as much anymore, hopefully. But
Well, I throw out a suggestion of sending him the letter and saying we will present it verbally at one of the council meetings and just do that. I mean, it's kind of almost gone far enough away that,
sure.
you know, thanks, but that the idea that he's definitely got himself busy where I say, let's respect that and just kind of get this done and move on.
Yep.
I think he wants to forget all about us, actually.
No.
Anyway, that was my only item. So I'll go around the order in which people are appearing on my screen. Melinda, did you have anything for Commissioner's choice?
No, I think it's all been addressed.
Jason, anything?
Nope.
And CJ, anything for Commissioners?
I just want to bring up that Arapahoe Acres does also, besides its historic things or community. And what's really neat is for our June food truck, we're having a teddy bear potluck and picnic, and we're collecting stuffed animals, coloring books and crayons for a victim advocate right there in Englewood, and for the police to carry around stuff, stuffed animals and stuff. It was really neat that was something that they haven't had done for them before. So that was cool in June. So if you have any stuffed animals you want to drop by. And then
I imagine you mean new and unused stuffed animals?
New or fairly new, that type of thing. But yeah. And then there is the Mid-Century Modern, it's like a limited corporation or whatever that works the Mid-Century Modern shows in August. And they're asking for us to be involved, and we're going to be doing a walking tour, and I'll keep that information available. And I was just curious, has anyone ever heard, subject change, of the legendary ladies? No, it is really cool. It's these women that take up the research of women, whether they be just Colorado, not just, but whether they be Colorado-based women or different women across the United States. And they research them in books, computer, Wikipedia, you name it. And then they create costumes to reflect that person, the costume to reflect that person. And then they create their script that is highly scrutinized by other members of their group. And then they present it as if they're that individual. So I felt really bad. It didn't even cross my mind. We had a presentation at Unity with them. And of course, it's just fascinating different things that that women have done in the past, 1800s, 1900s and the like. So but I just throw that out. If ever you hear that term legendary ladies, they're research enacted, which is beautiful. So I just throw that out.
All right. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 That's unanimous and will be adjourned at 8:02 p.m.
Right. See you all
Thank you.
later.
Thanks, Cash. That was perfect.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks, Aaron.
everybody.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. See you next month.
See you next month.
All right.
Bye.
See you then. Take care. Bye.
Bye.